Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Radiantly Awakened podcast. I am here with Liz Bowden, and I'm so excited for this conversation. Liz is a breathwork facilitator, earth medicine educator, microdosing mentor, and so much more. So much more. She's an MG in human design, so that means she's multi-passionate, passionate. She does all the things, and I'm so excited to have her on and introduce her to you. In my opinion, Liz is just full of integrity, heart, warmth, and joy, and she infuses that into everything she does. So I'm so excited to bring her on, and she's inspired me in so many ways. So, I've got all the chills. Liz, would you like to introduce yourself further?
Hi everyone. Yes, I am Liz. I am all of those things and ever evolving. Yeah, definitely a human being, just dabbling in and out of my passions. So, which is great that I have that opportunity to do that here. So,
Yay. Liz just guided us through a practice just a moment before this. Before this, I was running around like a headless chook trying to get all the things done, and I was like, I need to ground. And Liz is like, okay, let's drop in. And oh my gosh, I'm feeling so, I don't know what the word is. I'm going to say yummy. That's the first word that came to me. I don't usually
yes,
use that word, but I'm like, that's the only word I can use to describe how I'm feeling right now.
yummy. Should we drop in
let's
further?
let's drop in further.
Amazing. I like to start everything with the drop in just to ground back into the body. So we'll start just in a nice seated position, shoulders down our backs, feeling supported underneath of you, and with deep, long breaths in and out. Extending the exhale. Inhale. Hold at the top. Feel your heart space open with your air. And as you exhale, feel yourself ground down further into the body. Once again, inhaling, this time directly into the heart space. Clearing, connecting, softening, hold. Exhale, surrender down, right into the body. And to move your shoulders a little bit, add a little movement here. Open the jaw and close it. And as you open your eyes, feel connected.
I don't know if we're gonna get a podcast episode out of this, right? I'm just like smiling in like this blissed out state of like,
We'll just be in each other's presence for the next hour.
Yeah,
Everyone
can
follow along as we min-ah our way through this hour.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. I'm just so blissed out right now. But we should probably talk.
Some things. Yeah, we should.
We should. So
Or we can.
Yeah. So Liz has been on so many adventures lately, and I've been saving asking her all about them for this very moment right here because I want to share it with you all so that we can all bask in all the things that she's been up to. So please do let us know.
Yes. So I recently just got back from a unexpected adventure it was planned, but not really planned, which is how my whole life has been up to this point. I definitely travel without much of, knowing where I'm going to end up and having a lot of free flow within it. Because I've found through all of my travels, I travel a lot, that all of the magic happens when there is no plan. And so that was very much this trip. The one thing that I did have plans that I did know that I wanted to do was I wanted to sit in ceremony, and I wanted to ground into more of who I am, Liz, and what I want to do, like the trajectory of my life. I've been doing a lot around earth medicines and microdosing and speaking on health sovereignty. And I did this beautiful program that was so epic and amazing. And then after, I just had this big call to recalibrate and really hone in on the intention of how I wanted the next step in my quote unquote business to be, and the next step in what my creation is, like what really honing in on the intention and understanding that what I create is so sacred and is deserving of that direction and grounding. Right. And so that was one of the themes of the trip was coming down into my body and really understanding my why. And so I knew I was going to start off my trip in the jungles of Peru. And who better to create and ground with than Abuelita Ayahuasca. And so I signed up for a 2-week dieta in Pucallpa. And it was magical. Did it through Los Cielos, magical people. And I say magical with, it was magical, and yet it was tough. To say the least. When you sign up for something like this, when you sign up for a 2-week dieta or any plant dieta, you never know what you're going to get. Right. And so those 2 weeks, I mean, looking back, rocked me. Right. Like I had no cell phone. I was on a diet that was relatively strict, and really tapping into parts of my being that I've never tapped into before on a deeper level, right? And a lot of it was shadow work. And a lot of it was looking at parts of me that I had been ignoring. And that's the work, right? Is really looking past all the things that we're used to looking at and looking at it from a deeper lens or from a deeper perspective. Gathering information, right? So a lot of gathering information about myself and my patternings. It's tough work to really look at some of your habits and your mental habits, as well as, physical habits that you've either inherited. Many of them have been inherited, right, from ancestors and from how I thought I was supposed to live my life and how I thought I was supposed to walk on this earth as a female. Or a person with a womb, right? Looking at that programming and that patterning, and really looking at it, right? And if you can really look at it, then you can decide from that space whether or not you want to continue that. And so this 2 weeks, I was really looking at it. I remember there was one ceremony, I was sitting there, and it was every little detail and every little feeling and sensation that I aligned with anxiety and fear I was experiencing for, like, it felt like lifetimes, but it was really like an hour.
Wow.
Yes. And what's beautiful, and one of the beautiful medicines that ayahuasca and just plant medicines in general have for us is training our nervous systems.
Wow.
Right? Like really giving us, this is what you've been avoiding. This is everything you've been fearful of. This is it right here.
Wow.
Can you breathe and still be here with it? Can you just be with it? No, not judging it, not trying to escape. And you can't escape. I actually had found myself trying to escape, right? And that could have been through movement or thoughts. And you come back and it's still there. And so this teaching us of how to hold the infinite of everything that we are all at one time. So expanding our capabilities of holding space for our own selves.
Wow.
And in that, we can then do that for others, right? Only to the extent that I have led myself, only to the extent that I have held space for my own shadow, could I ever do that for another, right? Or see that in another and really hold presence for another to that degree, right? So very profound ceremonies that I was going through, definitely like on the heavier side through most of it. The jungles of Peru have a heavy energy to them. Luckily, there were baby monkeys on the property that stole my heart away. And we even had a baby monkey mooncake in ceremony with us because the monkey's so young, it has to stay with the parent. They were rehabilitating the monkeys and raising them. And so the monkey had to stay on one of the facilitators during the ceremony.
That's
That
so
was really nice and
cute.
grounding
What is a
to have that.
mooncake? What's a mooncake?
A monkey. That was I don't know. Other than I think mooncake is like a dessert.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's a dessert. But these monkeys had very hilarious names, honestly. And this baby monkey was named Mooncake.
That's so cute.
Yes.
I love how you just
Yeah.
went to from ayahuasca deep, experiencing all the feels, experiencing like all your fears and holding them, and then you went to baby monkey mooncake, all
Yes,
within that
there
time.
it is. Which is like such a symbol of, I mean, the monkeys were such a symbol of us too,
Mm,
right? There's depth, but then there's also play and
yeah.
joy, right? And what was beautiful is, there was so much work, and there was a lot of heaviness, and there was a lot of me like questioning everything, like questioning how I was running my business, how I was working with earth medicines, really looking at it. And it was almost like I feel like there's a consciousness in all of this, and the medicine and my soul, right, my inner guidance knew how many ceremonies I was going to do before I even showed up. And
Hmm.
it's almost like it knows how many ceremonies, and within that ceremony it's going to have a beginning cycle and a completion of that cycle,
Wow.
guaranteed. Right. So if
Wow.
I had tried, like, and there was many times where I thought about dipping out, like, I think I'm good. Like, like you go through one ceremony, and then as soon as you feel like you're semi-settled, you're getting pulled back into the next one,
Oh my gosh.
was like, because I sat about 5 times there in the 2 weeks that I was there.
Hmm.
And I was also, celebrating with Kambo. I say celebrating because I don't like to say the word using as much, but Kambo is also a beautiful medicine. And I was doing Kambo the mornings after, which I now have such a beautiful relationship with, and so grateful for that medicine as well. But you're going through a lot in such a short period of time, and yet there's this inner guidance and this inner knowing and this consciousness around it that has chapters and has like sagas within it. And you kind of have to just trust that even though the ceremony I just went through, I literally felt like I did not need anything else. Like I was way too scared to do it again. I was like, I remember thinking the ceremony, like, this is the last one I ever do. Like, there's no way I could do another one. And I think that was the second one, right?
Oh.
But I am so glad I finished it, because there was gifts for me after, like, and the next one, I felt myself more empowered and more empowered. I mean, by the last ceremony, I felt that I was sitting up, feeling, because in that second one where everything hit so hard, I couldn't do nothing but lie down. Like there
Mhm.
was nothing else I could do but just lie down. And by the end of it, when you have your arcana, or like the end of the cycle that you've decided to sign up for, and they're kind of like stitching you back up and weaving all of the loose threads together, like you're like this ball of yarn, and all of a sudden, little by little, over time, with each ceremony, this yarn is being weaved into this beautiful tapestry. And by the end of it, it was like I was being rewoven into this whole embodied self
Wow.
that I had never like really, fully experienced before. So I was experiencing myself on such a full level, and I was able to sit up and be with it. And I remember, like, right before the maestro was going to come to sing to me, because these beautiful maestros, they sing icaros, which are songs of the trees, to each person in the ceremony. They dedicate
Mm.
a song and their time to each person, and it takes hours,
How
and
beautiful.
they're older, right? And yet you feel like they have the youth of like a teenager. They're just so vibrant, right? Segundo is the name of one of the maestros, or the main maestro. And I remember as Segundo was coming up to me, all of a sudden the fears and the anxieties that I had from the second ceremony came up, like almost out of my left shoulder, just like, and I
Oh,
remember just being like, oh, yeah, I remember this, and I can hold this,
wow.
and I can sit up and be with this,
How
right?
amazing.
A big download that I got was, sit up, Elizabeth, remember who you are.
Oof.
I was like, oh.
Oh, my gosh. That's
I remember
amazing.
like how you got here, and all of the hands and the souls that led you to you being able to be alive right now,
Oof.
right? It's like,
I got chills.
oh, okay. No pressure. No pressure at all.
Wow, it's so amazing. So, just for me, because obviously I've never done ayahuasca, celebrated with, I've never experienced
Yeah.
ayahuasca
Mhm.
before. So, with this 2 weeks, so do you get to choose how often you sit in ceremony? Is that how it works?
It just depends. If you do a dieta, you can dieta with many plants, and not all of them are necessarily psychoactive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the one that I chose to do, because it was so short and it was 2 weeks, I was only working with ayahuasca and then also Kambo. And Kambo is a great medicine to take before and after ceremonies because it's a cleansing medicine. It kind of helps clear any blockages so that you're fully receptive. And it's almost like you're kind of getting rid of like the surface level stuff, getting that
Mm-hmm.
out of the way so
Do
you
you
can
want to
really
tell
bring.
people what combo actually is?
Yeah,
Because I
amazing.
don't think a lot of people will, and maybe even what ayahuasca is, because I think so many people like it's such a like a buzzword. Everyone's like, oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it
I'm gonna
is.
go do
It is.
ayahuasca, like sort my whole life out, like have a cool experience. But like no one actually
Yeah,
knows. Like
yeah.
it's such a common thing. Like no one actually knows what
Mhm.
these medicines actually are. So yeah, maybe like a bit of a breakdown of each.
Yes, of course. Kambo is frog medicine. It comes from the frog. And the way they administer it is it's through the bloodstream. And so they actually will burn tiny holes on your skin and then put the frog medicine on the burns so that it goes through your body. And it's that seems really intense.
It
And it
does
is,
seem really
it's
yeah.
honestly one of them. It's an intense experience, but the thing about combo is it's an intense physical experience, right? Where you feel it pretty quickly. And the other thing though is like the peak of it is like after 15 minutes it's over, and so once it goes through your body and then you vomit it out. And so you drink a lot of water before and you fast before. So you're basically just vomiting quote unquote water, but ideally you're also vomiting old stories and patternings and things that you need to release energetically, spiritually, right? Whatever you're being called to release out with the water. So it's administered, and pretty soon, like as soon as they put the frog medicine on the burns, you kind of feel it go through your body, and your body's like, oh, this is poison, we need to get rid of it. However you want to look at it. Although my body obviously doesn't necessarily see it as poison, it's seeing it as medicine that's helping my body let out something. And then after you're releasing and you're vomiting, and it's about like a good 15 minutes depending on how much you take. It can be prolonged depending how much, but then you have this like come down where you feel so just like a baby again, and you're very sensitive after combo. I also experienced one of the times you're after doing combo, like everything was coming my way. It was almost like all these blocks that energetically be lifted, and like all these answers that I had been wanting answered for like years were like coming at me. And like I had met someone at that point, and like all these cool things are just coming my way. And I was like, wow, so you're a bit of a magnet after combo too, which makes sense because you just release stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
These
Mm-hmm.
subconscious holds. But what's also beautiful about combo is it's not like a medicine like ayahuasca, which you need like a full 8-hour long ceremony around. Right. Like you'll typically do combo and then go into what they call like a master teacher, like ayahuasca.
Hmm.
or 5-MeO or something like that.
What's 5-MeO?
However, that's
I'm like,
another frog medicine.
okay, all right, all right, all
Yes.
right.
Yeah. But I will say that doesn't mean though that Kambo is to be paired like solely by itself. People have been going to Kambo for widespread disorders, and whether it be gut issues, parasites, I mean, all kinds of things. It was used originally, I was told it was like the vaccine of the jungle. So long before we had vaccines, it was used in certain tribes to get rid of illnesses and to help with immunity, because Kambo, that's the one thing I should mention, Kambo is amazing for your immunity.
Wow.
Yes, it's
I
amazing.
didn't
It's a
I didn't know
total
that at
reset.
all.
Yeah, it's a total reset for you. Yeah, it's amazing for your immunity and helping with your body's natural defenses and just resetting your gut health, just your blood. Like it's amazing medicine in that way. It was
Wow.
also used before in tribes before going out for hunting and gathering, right? Because it heightens your senses after. So afterwards you're super you see more and you smell more. It really taps you into your animal instincts because it is an
Wow.
animal medicine. It's a frog, so it's really tapping you into your animal body, right, your primal body. And so that it was also used before that, so you can see animals more, and you can see things more in the jungle, and you can smell things more. Beautiful medicine in that way, and which is also why it's great to do before some medicines, because it's making you super susceptible, or maybe, yeah, we could say sensitive to certain things.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Hmm.
I'm just thinking, so you say it taps you into your animal body. I get that, but what I've got in my brain, I don't, I'm like, should I say this? Should I not? Like, this is just such a weird thing to say. Is like, is there any like resemblance to like any sort of frog stuff going on in you? Like, you know?
Okay, I will say I look like a frog after I do combo, because it kind of makes your face bloat up, and it kind of
Wow.
makes your body bloat up sometimes, especially if you're dealing with things around appearances and like not accepting of appearances, right? Like the frog medicine will know and kind of work in your face a little bit, and it's got this beautiful divine and intelligence to it, right? Because you are working with the spirit. So yeah, I tend to look like a frog after, which is hilarious to me. And I always see frogs more after, which is also, but then again, I'm seeing other animals too, and I'm just noticing more. I'm noticing
Mm,
more subtleties.
I love that. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And you mentioned working with the spirit, so working with the spirit of the medicine. Do you want to
Hmm.
speak to, let's say that in general, but also going into like the spirit of ayahuasca and the sacredness of that, and the sacredness in which
Mm.
people need to understand when is communing with that medicine and working, like, I don't know the right word, with the
Yes.
medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, going into the spirit of the medicine.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things where you have to feel a call, right? You have to feel a call to um, dance, or what's another good word? Honestly, to sit as a student
Mm,
with these medicines in
mhm.
many ways. And I want to say student, but then I also want to say you're also meeting the medicine with your authenticity and with your worthiness,
Mhm.
right? It's not a I'm going to ayahuasca and she's gonna beat me up and giving me all these answers, and I'm just down here and she's way up here. And um it's more of a seeing you are one with the medicine as well, right? But then also understanding that there is lessons to be learned, and there is an extreme reverence.
Mm.
And with ayahuasca, that reverence will come whether you feel it or not, right? It's she will kind of let you know the reverence needed, like, which is also so beautiful. Like, how many of us have like forgotten how to be reverent and
Mm,
forgotten how to be humble, you know? Just forgotten how to be in mere awe of the magic and the beauty of this earth.
mm,
So that's one of the beautiful gifts she brings us, right? And when you do partake in these medicines, you will feel it, right? You will feel like, oh, I'm not just, ingesting some foreign thing into my body, and I'm gonna go have an experience. You know what I mean? If you come to the medicine with intention and reverence and the sense of like understanding that, first of all, it's an ultimate privilege you even get to sit with these medicines. Like, I am so immensely grateful that I have the resources, the time, and the opportunity to sit with the medicine, especially like ayahuasca, right? It's not like a mushroom that grows everywhere and prolifically, right? And it's also been passed down through a lineage that has safeguarded this medicine and has treated it with so much reverence and respect. And only because of that, I am then able to sit with that medicine,
Wow.
right? And the same thing with Kambo, right? It's any of these earth medicines, understanding like it's a privilege and an honor. And because of that, you really want to come with this reverence and this intention before going in, right? And
Mm,
then even more so, which for me, my big aha moment is really realizing, integrating
mhm,
what the after. So I got this amazing opportunity to sit with this amazing teacher and this amazing guide, that yes, it's a teacher, it's a guide, but again, just amplifying my inner wisdom and knowing, right? So it's not like a separate consciousness, it's a one consciousness, and these plant medicines are just amplifying what's already there, right, within us, which is also another profound thing to really sink into our bodies, that we are divine beings, right? Gods with amnesia, just remembering, just remembering everything. Um, and therefore, like, I had that privilege. So that means that the real work is me honoring that by weaving it into my mundane, right?
mm,
How do I take these feelings and these experiences and these, downloads and lessons, and share them with my brothers and sisters
mhm,
and myself on a daily basis? That
mhm.
remembering rather than
Absolutely.
forgetting it all, right? I went and I had this experience, and now like, wow, no, you had this profound chapter in your life where you got to learn all of these things, and now what's that mean for the rest of your life, and how can you uphold what you learned and felt throughout the rest of your walks, and through your presence is the big download here, is through my presence is really
Yeah.
how I integrate what I experienced.
Can we go a bit deeper into the integration from maybe just a practical perspective? Because I know so many people who may not even they may not even touch many parts of themselves yet, but they feel called to, or they really want to work with this medicine. Can you explain to them, or just explain in general, yeah, what that really looks like, what that integration period really looks and feels like, and what they can prepare or something like that?
So, for preparation, one of the biggest things we can do is get ourselves out of our default mode, or basically, if you can get out of your house, even, and how you live your life, definitely out of your job. Like, take, if you can, a good week to just breathe, journal, be outside of where you live and outside of your everyday life as much as you can. So,
Mm-hmm.
kind of just dissecting you from your identity, right? For just to like have a fresh page, and outside of like the responsibilities you have. So if you have kids or a partner, just kind of like getting yourself back in your body, and you being your sole responsibility. And then journaling and doing practices that you align with. Meditation is huge. Meditation is everything. If there's one thing that I could say, it's meditation, meditation, it's everything, right? That's like the total preparation, and the after part, the integration, where you have space and time again to just come back down to your core values, to yourself, and to what your body is really asking of you, right? And
Mm,
to what you are needing or seeking in that moment. So that way you kind of have an idea of why you're even going into ceremony. That's not based on your job or your partner or whatever, all of these external inputs, right?
Wow.
So getting rid of the external inputs. Um, and then you have your experience. And then after it, it pretty much looks like the same thing. I think integration, first and foremost, is a way of life. It's
Mm.
not a potion and it's not like a set method. There's no like set way to do it. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And it's going to look so unique to each individual, as it should. It should
Absolutely.
look so uniquely you, right? Like we're each such divine, um, you know, universes. And so it's going to look different for everyone. And so what that also means is, again, a lot of making sure you're not around all these external inputs and you're able to receive and listen to how your integration process should and will look like. Right. And so for me, my integration process has looked like looking back at my journals, meditating, getting into my morning practices. But I think
Mm.
above all of that, it's a mindset shift that I have to remember,
Mm-hmm.
because these medicines are creating a different mindset or helping us formulate different mindsets, which then creates different realities in our lives. Right. And
Mm.
so I have been clearing my schedule. I have been creating so much what I call white space, where I have no responsibilities, and what I'm doing is being a mammal. I call it mammal time, where I'm literally just breathing air, drinking, eating when I need to, and going out and laying in the sun. You can
I
also call
love
it
that.
plant time.
I love that. I love it.
Another, yes, right. And then also a lot of gardening, like putting my hands in the soil and like working with plants a lot and the earth a lot before jumping into like relationships with people.
Mm.
Because again, like when you are in a relationship with a person and a friend or interactions with people, you're interacting with their mindsets and their beliefs, right?
Mm.
And so for a period of time after you do such deep work, you want to make sure you are just with yourself and not everyone else's stuff, because you're also super
Mm.
sensitive, right?
Absolutely.
You can call that being imprinted by something else. You want to make sure you're just able to recalibrate. And then from there, I'm constantly, I shouldn't say constantly, but there's this big message of I'm choosing and I'm noticing the patternings that need to shed and the ones that need to be created or fortified,
Mm.
like on a daily basis, right?
That's
Like
amazing.
those are some of the thoughts that I know that I'm not going to listen to anymore.
Mm.
But hold them lovingly. It's not about like it's not about try to cut things out. Again, it's about holding it all, but then realizing your power to choose which direction you want to go,
Absolutely.
because your life is your greatest creation.
Absolutely. And I think that that's such important wisdom, not just for earth medicines, and it's just important for life, right? It's just important for life,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're going through something big or big changes, or you've done a lot of anything. If you've done a lot of anything, deep work, anything, it's so important to have those moments of integration and landing, really. Because a lot of people in this world, like, it's very easy to get stuck in that go 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 hamster wheel, no stopping, and no stopping until you realize that you're exhausted. It's so important to just schedule in those moments, block out that time, free yourself, and connect back with what's important. So yeah, I love that. Thank
Yeah, we
you.
talk about showing reverence and respect for these medicines,
Mm.
and I truly believe the biggest reverence and how we show that, how we show our true reverence and how we show our true gratitude, and yeah, just respect, is through our integration,
Mm.
right? Because it's important what we went through, and it's meant to be carried and it's meant to be embodied, right? It's meant to be embodied and really embodied. And for me, the integration piece is when we're embodying it, and only then do we share it. right? I feel like we have this like deep need. We're like, oh, I just experienced all these things. So now immediately my next step is I got to share it. I got to make offerings. I gotta, this idea, I gotta,
Mm.
right? I'm now meant to like put it out into the masses. And that's beautiful. And that is so true. But first, can we truly embody and take a pause and allow ourselves to really think about the how we want to do that?
Mm.
Right. And what does that really look like? Um,
Yeah.
bringing more intention to everything that we do.
And I think it's not even really thinking about the how, it's just letting it settle in and then letting it naturally show
Mm,
itself, you know? And like
mm,
you yeah, I'm deeply resonating with this now because I'm in right this second as we're speaking, I'm in such a integration period when I'm giving myself 4 days of just mammaling.
yes.
So, and I would say that this is part of it somewhat because connecting with other humans that make you feel connected, like, yeah, this
Mhm.
is definitely part of my mammaling in a way.
Oh my, and doesn't this all come back to that teaching of you will show them with your presence?
Mm, I love, I love that.
Mm.
I'm itching to go to shift gears a little bit and go a bit backwards because I'm just itching. I know that we did, for those of you who don't know, Liz and I did a live a while back ago. I don't even know when it was. It was ages ago. It feels like lifetimes
Lifetimes.
ago. And that was more about microdosing for soul level healing. We spoke more about microdosing and mushrooms. In that, you did speak to a bit of your story, your journey, and how you
Mhm.
got to this place. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure you didn't just wake up as a baby one day and you're like, I'm going to go to Peru and do an ayahuasca journey. And, you know,
I'm gonna be a wild woman.
or maybe you
Like,
did. Maybe you
yeah,
did, you know, like,
yeah.
but I
Mhm.
just think for people to hear just a bit about how you got to this place, yeah, I would love to hear it again. And yeah.
Yes. It's interesting because right now, if I had to call it something, it's definitely been a journey of rewilding, which is
Mm.
also my little business, my LLC, Rewild Spirit, right? So I've been on this journey since being born of remembering my wild and revealing these layers of conditioning and patternings, right? And I feel like one of the big pivotal moments was when I was living on a permaculture farm in Costa Rica, and we were growing our own food and our own medicines. And I was, just stripping myself of everything, coming from, private schooling and just the era I was living in and the town that I was living in, and just being ripped away from that and then like put in this like wild jungle of Costa Rica with these amazing humans. Like it's always also about the humans you meet, right? And
Mm.
how they embody their wild or their truth. And you're like, oh wow, you mean I can do that? Like,
Mm.
whoa, and how I see them connecting and talking to plants and herbs and really having a relationship with the earth and everything they put into their mouth, like their food, their tea, and I was like, oh, I can do that. And I have that capability. And that was, I can't even tell you what year that was. It was a while ago that I first went to Punta Mona. It's this place called Punta Mona. You guys might have seen it on Netflix series with Zac Efron, Down to Earth. There's an amazing episode on that beautiful space in Costa Rica, that farm and permaculture center. And then after that, kind of started this whole rewilding journey. And I started looking at the pharmaceuticals and the things that I was putting into my body and the mindset that I had around my life and my body, right? This idea that I have these, disorders, and the way to heal them are these external medicines. And then if I ingest them, they will cure them somehow,
Mm.
and that was kind of like the mindset I had. And really looking at that. And it wasn't until, I mean, gosh, it's been 2 years now that I decided to start microdosing mushrooms.
Mm.
And I remember I had a little mushroom chocolate that I actually brought back from me from Punta Mona, and I was just nibbling on it.
Like you brought it
And I,
in the plane.
yes, and right. And at that time, well, I at that time I was working with kids, and not by coincidence either, because I realized that how my relationship with the kids is where I really saw the subtleties and the magic of my microdosing journey, because I realized like, oh wow, I'm being so empathetic and understanding. Not that I wasn't before. My Pisces self wants to be like, I'm so holy, don't worry about it. No, no, but on a deeper level, like the Pisces saint coming out. But on a much deeper level, right? And really realizing certain, again, patternings and thoughts that I had. I think one of the biggest, and I say this a lot, but the greatest thing that we're gifted is consciousness and awareness, right? It's not that these medicines are making us do anything or actually like changing. It's more of a giving us the awareness and the information, and then it's up to us of what we do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so if you're ready for it, and you're ready to know some of the patternings and ready to know some of the things that aren't working in your life, they will let you know. And that's kind of what happened in my microdosing journey, is I realized like, oh, wow, I have this unrealistic idea of how much energy I should have in any given moment. And in the sense that I was on Adderall and Lexapro before, and it was like this super masculine type of drive that I was on, and it wasn't sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember thinking like, I had to take this in order to like work today, or I had to take this in order to like be Liz today. So then my identity was tied to these medicines.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wasn't taking my pharmaceuticals, I wasn't going to be worthy enough. I wasn't going to be enough.
Fuck.
Right? Just like, oh, there it is. And we can, I feel like a lot of us know this. I feel like we deep down know this. Like we have these addictions. We all have addictions. It's a part of the human experience. There's no shame. Like we're all just out here, together, walking each other home, as Ram Dass says. We're all just out here living. And we all have these addictions, and we might want to call them vices or whatever. But I feel like with my journey with microdosing is I had more of an inner guidance on how to shift that and how to evolve those patternings and those limiting beliefs. So this amplification of my intuition and my body wisdom of what I actually needed, because I didn't actually need Adderall and coffee and all of these super stimulants to make me be able to do the things I want to do and do my job and create, right? That's right. Or which is what I attached my worthiness to, was my output, right? Like, oh, wait a minute. What is this thing called presence and living in between those spaces?
I've got chills right now.
Can I tingle and can I chill in a moment? And there is that femininity. Right. And I had lost that femininity. I had been suppressing her through all of this external things that I was almost like I was too scared of her. And isn't that what we're experiencing on a macro?
Oh my gosh. Especially, like, I feel like it's a theme right now, especially for me. I am there. Exactly what you just said. You're just like talking to me about my life right now of being on that. It wasn't Adderall or pharmaceuticals, it was more just coffee for me.
Yeah.
Coffee and the doing. And I already knew that. And then I still managed to get myself stuck in a cycle, which I'm on the other end of now, saying, I don't know how I just started talking about myself, but whatever, here we are. Like,
yes.
But like, just balancing out my belief systems around money and being able to provide for myself, output, femininity. I have this belief that I am deconstructing now. Full moon today. Deconstructing it. It's getting released.
No coincidences here.
Yep. And you know, I had this belief that I had to be hustling and grinding to be able to have the life that I want and be able to provide for myself. And it's not true. I know that because there's so many people around me that I can see that are obviously living a different type of life than the belief pattern that I've got, the belief that I've got going. But it's just so interesting how you're talking about that now, and so interesting how taking a step back and even with the assistance of these medicines can really help you see that. But I suppose one of the main keys is that presence and that spaciousness and that ability to reflect, which if you don't give that to yourself, you're never going to stop, right? You're never going to be
You're never
able
gonna see
to.
it.
Yeah, yeah. So whew.
Yeah. It's like we're running on this unrealistic tempo,
Mm,
right? We're all kind of in this and it depends where you live and it's going to be different everywhere, but I know for me personally it's like I see it, we're all living on this rhythm that is not natural,
mm,
right? It's a constant like shaking, and then I kind of visualize it as like that there's like like our nervous system is like this beautiful you can call it like strings, right? Like guitar strings. Um, and when in tune, they all make our perfect song that we can call our dharma,
mm,
right? Our soul song that is meant to be sung. And what being in a human body and having the human experience though means, right, and entails that some of these strings are going to be not in tune,
mm,
right? And so if we're strumming it, we hear like that one chord that's just off and it's shaky and it's not in the tempo or the rhythm that it we are meant to be at, right? And I also see that as the tempo of the earth, it's the frequency of the earth.
mm,
And I
mm,
think we all know this, like if we're constantly like on concrete and we don't have our hands in the soil, our feet on the actual earth or outside, like how many of us have immediately our mood changes when we step outside? You know
absolutely.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it immediately happens, right? We immediately are like, oh wow, this is me again. I'm finally, my nervous system is finally settling back in and
Mm.
doesn't feel like this off tune guitar that's riffing on all, and sometimes it'll go in certain directions, right? And it can sound like someone else's tunes based on the imprinting we had. And there's just so much there to that and to that analogy that I just brought up, but kind of how I see it.
I love
And
it.
my journey with medicines have really helped me tune myself and my frequencies back to authenticity. It's not
Absolutely.
pretty, it's not perfect, it's not what my ego wants, it's not any label you throw out there, it's not ugly either and it's not terrible either, right? It's whatever it is, right? It's not these things that I have ideas of, but it's me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just me.
I love it. I read something the other day, and I'm going to botch this quote, but the idea of it was someone was saying that the only things that are absolutely perfect are dead things, like are lifeless things. And you are not dead. You're alive. It's messy, it's raw, it's wild. And, that in itself is perfect, you know?
Yeah,
So that's definitely
yeah.
not the quote. That's just my interpretation of it. But
I
yeah.
love that. I love that. That reminds me, I did some photo shoots with this amazing Katie Bosch, who's an amazing photographer here in Richmond, Virginia. And she has done so many amazing photo shoots with beautiful females. And my friend Margarita did one and she was showing me one. And I remember she said to me, she was like, you see how they're holding their breath in the picture and they're lifeless.
Mm.
You're not even capturing them. I was like, wow, that's something to think about, you
Woo!
know? Like you just, how many times do you pose for a picture and you hold your breath because
Oh
you
my
want to be
God.
pretty, right? Or
Or
like you
even
do
suck
the,
in your stomach as
yes,
well.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like
Mhm.
sucking in like your life force and like constricting
Yeah.
it and yeah, I'm conscious of
Uh-huh.
that these days. I wasn't before, I'll be honest, but
Hmm.
because it's the beauty standards and all the bullshit, right? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
programming, programming, programming. And there was something I was going to say on the hamster wheel sort of off
Yeah.
like the guitar strings everywhere type
Hyper
thing. It's
masculinity,
yeah,
toxic masculinity, I should say.
or
Yeah.
wounded, whatever word you want to use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
But
Yeah, yes, wounded. Yeah, there's a
it's
lot
so
there.
easy to fall back into it, even if you know, like this is coming from someone who's practiced the feminine path, who's practiced pulling back from go 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 lifestyle. It's so easy to accidentally fall back in that trap and be like, oh crap, how the hell did I get back here? Because it's deeply ingrained, and it takes so
Yeah.
much spaciousness, compassion, allowing and getting used to, following
Mm.
that inner knowing, getting used to recalibrating yourself to the earth frequency, and just constant what's the word, like reminding yourself, and constant presence and intention into that area, which it's very easy to just lose for a certain reason. For me, it was, oh, okay, I'm gonna try this out for a bit, and I'm like, how the hell did I get here? And it was actually really good because there's like a lot of shadow integration and all the things that I'm learning, and learning how I got there, and learning how to get myself back, and
Mhm.
flexing that muscle, like growing that muscle. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Right. It's so not linear. Healing is and will never ever be linear. It's just
Messy.
yeah, it's so messy. And again, I even think about it's feminine. It flows. It's in, it's
Mm.
out. You know, there's not this like end goal either. That's also again like how are we even bringing in some of the programming around masculinity and femininity into our idea of what our healing should look like,
Oh, oh,
right?
oh my God. It's like you literally can't hold on. You literally can't be rigid. This is the way it's going to go. Like, you can't.
Hmm.
You have to surrender. You have to
Yeah.
surrender. We're at the end
And
of
you might
Pisces
take one
season.
step
You have to
forward
surrender.
and yes, and then like 10 steps back, and can you still have grace and can you still take another step forward
Oh, yeah. And yeah, just not give
when the
up.
time is right?
Yeah, just not get, like, not have the energy of I give up. That's something that
Mhm.
came up for me. Like, things in my life right now are just recalibrating. The internal's recalibrated so much to the point that the external's starting to show. And the external, there's like tower moments going on everywhere. It's recalibrating. And I'm a Taurus sun, and I naturally resist change and uncertainty and security and all the things. It's like,
Mhm.
how can, and the funny thing is, I haven't backed down. I haven't, like, that part, there's no part of me that said, okay, well, I'm just gonna give up and like go crawl in a hole now and wait for it to all be over. It's like, oh no, I'm just gonna keep taking one step at a time and like continuing forward, even though I have no idea what's going on, even though shit's just fucking crazy. I have no idea how I'm starting talking about this, but it's just the truth, right? I feel like it's happening on a collective to so many of us right now. It's not just me
Mhm.
that has this particular thing happening. I've spoken to other people. They're like, yeah, like, I'm feeling you.
Mhm.
I'm there
Yep.
with you.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and that's where the coming back to that recalibrating with the earth frequencies, spaciousness, openness, grace, all the things, earth medicine, incorporating that or not incorporating that, like the
Right.
integration and the allowing. It's
Earth medicine can be a walk in nature,
mm,
breathing in.
yes,
That is earth medicine too. Taking a hike. Like
yeah,
it's however you convene with the earth and feeling that she's able to support you on your healing path
absolutely.
or however you identify earth.
Mm.
Yeah. It's there's so much there to what you said, Emelita. I really, really appreciate that. Um, the not giving up portion.
I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love for
Isn't
you
it
to, so you go.
go on. I was just gonna say, as you were talking, as you were saying that, I just thought I was like, but wow, how beautiful is it that you're living from that authentic space
Oof.
and you're not pretending and you're not, ignoring all of that, right?
Mm,
You're actually embodying and living what Emelita truly feels in that present moment. And that authenticity and that just wearing of your own skin. I mean, we all know when we see that in another, and how refreshing is that?
mm.
That's medicine.
Oh, I'm gonna
Mm.
cry. I'm crying.
Yes, I got it to cry.
Oh gosh, this is so
Sometimes I feel
good.
like one of my missions is to make everyone cry at some point.
Crying is good. Crying helps release cortisol, right? Like it's good for the soul. I want to, there's a couple more things. I don't know how much time you
Yes.
have left, by the way. Like we've been going for a while now. How much time have you got?
Oh, I love it. I'm good.
Okay. All right. Because I don't feel like I'm done yet. I want to keep
Me
asking you
either.
things. Yeah. There's two things I want to talk about. Which one do I go for? This one? Okay, we'll go here first. I don't know what I want to say. I don't know how I want to word this because my notes do not reflect how I want to express it. So let's
Mhm.
talk about what's happening. Well, let's not go deep into what's actually happening in the world right now, but let's talk about the
Mm,
overall like macro energy and all the
yeah.
craziness that's happening, maybe around health and choice and all the
Mhm.
things, and maybe just your wisdom around that, your wisdom on where like maybe speak to health sovereignty and how maybe even how you can tie in earth medicines with that or whatever comes up
Yeah.
for you with that question,
Okay,
if
beautiful.
that was a question.
Okay, amazing. So this idea of everything that's going on in the macro that is then related to everything that we're experiencing on a micro level in our everyday lives, right? It's so interesting. Like I find myself like the other morning I woke up and I was super agitated over something that was so trivial and like, in comparison to what's going on in the world, it was so silly. And I had to just realize I was like, yet it's an emotion that I'm experiencing. It's an
Mm,
agitation, it's a frustration. There was also a lot of fear beneath that. And I realized I was like, although I've disguised it as this silly, trivial thing, perhaps this emotion that I'm feeling is actually what many people are feeling all over the world,
oh,
you know, and remembering that interconnectivity piece that we really are all in this together, right? And what someone else is experiencing, in a sense, that's not to say that we can't have protection around others' energies and be in our own energy and the sense of like radical responsibility of what we're feeling ourselves, like that's huge.
mm,
But it's an and conversation, right? It's never this and that. It's never black and white. And so just finding more grace for myself when I'm having these feels and really understanding there is so much going on in the world right now. It's like we are being shooken up.
mm,
Things are happening. And I think what you'll hear many leaders say, and what I've also come to the conclusion of, is that it's like a birth. I think it was Carlos from the Ayahuasca Foundation, but I loved this analogy. It's that, we're like the big toe of a pregnant lady right now. Like we're the mere big toe, and as the big toe we don't really know exactly what's going on. All we know is there's a shit ton of pressure going on us, and there's a lot going on, right? There's a lot going on,
oh my
you know
god.
and yet something is about to be birthed. Something is about to shift.
I'm just so feeling like that big toe right now. Like this is
Right. Like I always come back to that. Like
I love
it's a
it.
great way to put it,
Oh my
right? It's
god.
we're here for it though. Like I'm seeing the shifts even within my hometown. I never would have imagined that I'd be back here. And just seeing the growth and the evolution even within my community here has been wow, magnificent, and so inspiring. And yeah, I we're in some trying times right now. We really, really are. And we have to really remember that. I think we also have to remember too, again, how wild we are in the sense that we are affected by seasons. And even within us, we have seasons. And again, there's nothing linear really about us in many ways. There's this ebb and there's this flow. one of my teachers, Laura Dawn, who's amazing. She's also a microdosing. She's a microdosing everything you need to know about microdosing. Go to Laura Dawn. She's so great. Also a badass speaker who's been speaking a lot more, which is amazing because we need more female voices out there. And she says that, like we're just riding the waves, and can we learn how to ride these waves rather than being toppled under? Can we can we learn how to surf everything coming at us? I think that's kind of what we're all doing right now through these times, is we're going to be knocked continually off our center. And that's why it's so important we know what our center feels like. Right? Like I know with my journey with earth medicines, and with my journey with these psychedelic medicines, I will even dare to say, right? Big word, big triggering word, that word. With my journey with these, I have really learned what it feels like to embody my center, to hold everything, to be in, it's power, but it's also just in a state of homeostasis. Right. And it's interesting because as soon as you have felt it within your body, then your brain and your body knows what to go back to. But if you don't know what it is and you don't experience it continually, how are you going to know what to go back to? Like, how are you going to know what is the energy or what is the feeling in my body that I am trying to harness right now and cultivate? What are those seeds that I'm trying to plant right now? Right. And so I know my Liz when she's off center, and I know what she's like, and I'm getting to know her more and more, and some of her characteristics and some of the ways that she is. And I also know what it feels like to be back in my power and centered. And I'm continually doing my morning practices. Morning practices are everything. Like, how do we start our day? Your day is everything, because your day turns into weeks, and your weeks turn into months, and your months turn into years, and next thing you know, it's been your whole entire life, right? So how are we going to start our day is definitely everything. I think right now self-care is huge. How are we, with everything going on in the world, can you at least choose in the morning and when you wake up to show up for yourself? First and foremost, right? Put your oxygen mask on first. Right. And I think that's what we're all doing right now, or what I hope we're all really realizing, is that we've really got to settle into taking care of ourselves before anything else.
Can
Right?
I chime in just the tiniest bit there, just because it feels important? One way I've started cultivating that in the morning is not checking my phone as soon as I wake up, because
Snaps.
you're not connecting with yourself. Like, how do you feel what your energy is if you're going straight into social media, straight into Instagram, straight into the news as soon as you wake up? It's like you've already started your day as that being the most important thing, that being more important than you. So I just really wanted to drive that bit home. Please continue.
Yeah. No, it's so true. That external. I mean, our nervous systems are not built to handle everything the media is throwing at us. There is no way. We are not biologically equipped to handle Instagram, media, worldwide, everything going on all over around the world, and shit that's going on inside our own house, within our own lives. Like, we each have our individual issues along with everything else that's going on in the world. We're not built to be bombarded with all of that, you know? So there's and I feel like we all kind of are dancing with this. I want to be informed, and yet I also recognize how my nervous system is being hijacked.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
there's a balance in that, right? And we have to find that balance for ourselves.
And this is one of the reasons that, I have guests on. Like, one of my main topics right now is about the nervous system, about trauma healing. This is like, I get like stuck into passions. And so I've had, a couple of people now speak about the nervous system. I'm having my somatic therapist jump on here on this podcast to talk to people about that, because it's so ignored in society, but we need it, because this level of information that's just being like you said, bombarding us. We can't get away from it completely. Like if you're going to step out and be part of society, you're going to have it thrown at you. And a lot of people
Mhm.
don't know when to stop. You know, they don't
Yeah.
know when to stop and pull back and even how to, because it gets you on that fight flight response where it feels almost like a compulsion that you have to be part of it to try and keep you safe, when the reality is that if you just step back and learnt what your
Yeah.
center felt like, really understood that, or took taken the time to do that, or did some yoga, or restorative yoga, calm down the nervous system, worked with a therapist, a somatic therapist, or do something to find that center. I feel like that is some of the most important medicine of these times, that nervous system part. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's so beautiful, Melita. It's like from, from what space are you leading your life?
Mm,
And if you have the privilege right now to be able to be in a safe space, right? Where you're able to live in a place where you're not fearing for your life, which is a privilege right now in many
mm,
ways. I mean, to say that we live in that time, like, shoo,
mm,
infinite grace for
mm,
all of us and all of humanity right now. But if you are able to be in a safe space and you're living in a place where you feel safe and you have the opportunity for your nervous system to settle in, do that.
mm,
Give yourself more time to settle in and live from a space of authenticity rather than a space of I'm scared and therefore I'm moving. And because you get into these habits and these patterns, next thing you know, you end up like 2 years down the line and you realize for the past 2 years you've literally been living from this space of like scarcity and fear because of all of the inputs that you were ingesting, right?
mm,
All of the nonsense, all of the stuff that wasn't you.
mm,
And you never took the time to just like, let me see what my inner wisdom is saying, right? And
mm.
that's what we all do this. Like I do this all the time, right? I constantly forget that I have this inner knowing within me that needs to be listened to.
Mm,
And it's a daily practice. It's an everyday remembering. It's not like, oh, all of a sudden it's that, it's every day.
yeah, I feel that. I feel that because I actually did my last podcast episode was talking about the slowing down and then all the downloads coming through. Like within a night, within a night, I was just dancing, moving energy through my body, and, a lot of emotion had come up. And then after that, this pure unconditional love feeling came up. And then after that, shitloads of downloads for like what, when something comes through to you and it feels like that is exactly what you are supposed to do and there's no doubt about it and you feel compelled to do the thing, that only comes when you give yourself that spaciousness. And so it's like, how are you meant to actually come into a place of, resonance with yourself, resonance with your soul, and what you're meant to do here in this life if you never allow yourself to have the space to do it? Whew.
Mhm. Yes, a Gaia. Right. It's so, and when you have that awareness, we have this awareness, Emelina, we see it. We see how, I mean, everything is set up to distract us.
Mm,
Like there's so many distractions.
mm,
If our
yep.
power is in our power is in our presence, right? And if our power is and our inner knowing comes from settling back in and finding that pause and not having the external inputs, wow, our world doesn't seem, or my government at least doesn't seem to provide a good space for that. And like really having that awareness of like, oh wait, like
Mm,
these are all distractions and I need to look at those and I can't just buy into everything and I have to question things,
mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
I can't just aimlessly go. I have to really pause. Remember, you are so sacred. Everything you put into you is so important. Like, I remember being
Mm.
in ceremony with cactus medicine. We'll talk about that another podcast. But the big download was really look at everything you put inside of your temple. And even to even look at myself as a temple is a huge deal for me, right? Because before there's so much unworthiness in my trauma and in my childhood. Like that worthiness will always be something I'm working on throughout my life, right? And actually I shouldn't say always. let me watch my words and my spells here.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting how they're called spells and we spell words, but let me watch that. But I will say, like, that is a big part of my dharma, is looking at my worthiness and really embodying my worthiness. And if I'm really embodying my worthiness, it means I'm going to really watch how I interact with phones and how I interact with the media and
Oof.
people, my
Yes.
food, everything that I do.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. And I've come to that realization as well myself. Recently I did a 30, I don't know if you can hear my stomach, it's grumbling. I did a 30-day dopamine fast of TV,
Mm,
alcohol, all substances actually, and chocolate. And it made me come to this place of realizing how much the external is there to distract us, exactly like you said. And there's things that are designed to get you addicted to them, right? To get you distracted. Distracted from what? Your center, your power, as you said. Because what happens when people are in the center? What happens when people are powerful? Well, they can fucking change the world, right? And it's like,
yeah.
did you know, they come to their center, they come to this place where they can change the world. It's like, maybe we stop consuming, I don't know, maybe we stop, feeding the machine, I don't know, like, this is just a thought that's coming through. And maybe people don't want us to do that, but I want us to do that. I
Yeah.
want me to do
Me
that. I
too.
want you to do that. I want all of us. This is part of the reason I do this podcast, right? So that we can all do that.
Yeah.
Because what world would it be if we were all in our power, and not power from a place of power over others, but power from a place of just, I feel like if you're truly in your power, you're connected to your heart and you're connected to your center. And if we're connected to our hearts and our center, then what can we create? And what would that look like? Just something to ponder.
Mm. Shoo, 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 shoo.
I know we're gonna be here. We could be here for like 5 hours, but I feel
We
like
really could.
we
We
should
really,
wrap
really
up
could.
eventually. But I wanted to
Yeah.
talk about, well, I wanted you to talk about breath, breath, the connection to breath, presence, and how that connects to spirit. I'm just gonna stop talking there and let you talk now.
Oh my gosh. You just said some of my favorite words that get me juicy and yummy. Breath, presence. What was it? Breath, presence,
Spirit.
spirit. Oh, spirit. My Pisces heart is like, yeah, spirit. We're all just spirits having a human experience. Um, wow, breath. So, when you hear things and you hear them and you're like, oh yeah, duh, that's an obvious statement. That's true. And then you hear them again at a certain point in your life and you're like brought to your knees crying
Mm,
at how true it is. And for me, breath and remembering to breathe was that in the difficult times, right? Because we say, oh, you're having a tough time or your nervous system is out of whack, just breathe. It's like, yeah, sure, cool, like fuck you. Don't tell me just breathe. Like, how do you think I'm here? I've always been breathing. But when you really realize that's really all is needed sometimes, it kind of just blows your mind. And I know this, not only from ceremony, where literally I felt to the deepest of my bones, the only way that I made it through was through my breath. And then looking back and being like, oh, actually, that's true. Like, if you're not breathing, you are dead. So there is something here. There is some truth to this. And yet it's so simple. And it's almost like you don't want to believe it because it's free. Again,
mm.
noticing our programming and what we've been trained to believe. It's something that's free. It's something that we do all the time. It's something that we can control. And it's something that we encounter at every present moment, at every moment that we're in. We encounter this breath. So the accessibility piece too, it's so accessible. Now we can get into air pollution, but we're not going to go down that route right now. We're going to stick with this. But breath is just one, it's our biggest and it's the tool of living, right? It's how we navigate all of these waters. And what I really love about breath work is sometimes I see breath work, first of all, as like the psychedelic experience of air, because it's the breathwork that I lead is it's a little bit like the Wim Hof. I lead healing breathwork circles and one-on-one sessions with people where you do like a form of mouth breathing all through the mouth. And it's in a rhythm that takes you on a journey, right? It's not pranayama per se. It's just a 2-part breath. It's really simple. It's just in through the belly, into the chest, and out through the mouth. And you just continue to do that over and over and over again, dropping into the body, no nasal breath to activate the mind. It's all mouth breathing, just dropping more into the body and out of the thinking headspace. And all of this healing can happen. It's like it unlocks all of these blockages and all of these egoic traps or shields, and you really get down to the core and the belly of it all, just through breathing and just through air. And what really dawned on me, and one of the reasons why I offer this now, I used to be a yoga teacher and now I'm just sticking with breath work, is because especially where I live, there's not many breathwork facilitators, and I found it to be such an extraordinary tool for looking at deep-seated trauma, looking at negative patternings and thought loops. And it's not even negative, but just looking at certain thought loops that could be having a negative impact on our lives. And it's such an amazing tool to do that, and it's not as accessible here. And so that's why I shift gears over, because I was like, okay, we've got yoga teachers everywhere. I really want to be able to provide this for people, and again, it's something that if it gets too much, you can always just breathe in through your nose, or you can always just slow your breath down. You are completely in your sovereign self when you're interacting with breath work. You haven't ingested anything else. It's just you, which is another reason why I feel so called to offer breath work and to guide breath work and remind people to breathe, is because it's like, it's not an external medication, and it's not this pill or this tea or this thing that you are ingesting. It's you, right? And that then reminds you of the whole point, and that is that you are your greatest healer, and all of the capabilities of healing your body actually lie and are found within you. And there's the presence right there, right? Can I be present with myself? And how is my breath connecting me to my presence? And therefore, how is my presence connecting me to my body wisdom? And my body wisdom connecting me to my intuition, and my intuition connecting me to making a sovereign choice of what I actually need in that moment.
Amazing. I love that explanation so much. Ah, is there anything else that we need that you want to cover? Like, I'm just thinking, like, I feel sort of complete.
Right,
Is there
right. Me
anything else that
too.
we just need
Yeah.
to get out there into the world that we have not yet
Mm.
already got out there? Because I'm going to invite you to share with everybody how they can contact you, work with you, all the
Yeah,
things.
of
But
course.
before that, is there any last words of wisdom that you have for us?
Mm. Uh, I will just say, may we all remember that we are sovereign, sentient beings, so worthy of vitality
Mm.
rather than surface level healing, so worthy of embodying our whole, genuine, authentic selves.
Mm.
Mm.
Ah, so nice. All right. Please let everybody know how they can contact you, work with you? I'm going to pop everything in the show notes as well for those listening.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can find me at rewildspirit.com. Um, that is my website well, I should say, let me start that over, Emelita. Snip, snip. You can find me at many spaces. I am on Instagram. It's Liz, the letter B, Wilden. There's no G on the end because I'm wild like that. And feel free to send me a message, reach out to me. I'm super friendly. I tend to always respond to people who message me. I do have a website and my email is on there. My website is rewildspirit.com. Yeah, and if you're ever in Virginia, I hold breathwork circles. I'm also speaking at a few events coming up around earth medicines and microdosing and getting more into my personal journey of those two topics. So yeah,
Nice. And are you offering any offerings online at the moment, or is it
at the
mostly local?
moment, I am integrating all of my
Integrating.
beautiful travels of Peru into my body. But stay tuned, friends, because what I create from this space will be the most magical thing I have ever created thus far. And that is a spell.
I love it. I love it. Oh, thank you so much, Liz. I'm like, I've been semi on the verge of crying. I'm like, I feel so good now. I just feel
Mhm.
so good from this conversation. I'm just
Sure.
so grateful to you for coming on here and sharing all of your wisdom, your experience. And I mean, like, I feel like we're gonna have to do this again sometime because it's
We
just
will.
so good. I'm
We will.
so energized by this conversation. So thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate you so much, so much.
Emelita, you're amazing. Thank you. It's an honor to be on here. Thanks, sis.
Mm.